Hi guys, welcome to this speed build video in The Sims 4. My name is Irene and today I am building Hogwarts from Harry Potter, of course. Not only Hogwarts, I will also build Hagrid's hut, the Whomping Willow, the Forbidden Forest, and not just flat on the ground. No, I'm going to build it on a massive magical book. This video is a part in my magic book series, and in that series I'm building these massive magical books with magical worlds coming out of them. The very first one I did in this series was a magic book with a fantasy world from my own imagination coming out of it. And while I was doing that build, I started thinking about all the possibilities for a build like this. I started thinking about all these epic book series or epic books that I could use as themes for builds like this. So the first one I did after that initial idea was a Lord of the Rings themed magic book. If you haven't seen that one already, check it out if you want. I made yet again, yes, a magic book with on the right side the Tower of Sauron and the Mordor, and on the left side the Shire, a hobbit house, in the middle a small, very small version of Rivendell. And while I was doing that video, I was doing that build, I asked you guys what you wanted to see next in this series. And Harry Potter, definitely top comment. So yes, I did a Harry Potter build. My very first one. I never did a Harry Potter build on my channel before, so it was about time. In this Harry Potter build, like I said, you can find Hogwarts. Hogwarts will be on the left side on the book, on the left pages, and on the right side, on the right side of the book, and on the left side you can find Hagrid's hut, the Forbidden Forest, and a Whomping Willow. Harry Potter, I don't know why I never did a build about him before. I'm such a big fan of Harry Potter. I think a lot of you like Harry Potter as well. I started reading the books when I was very, very young, or actually my parents read them to me. I got the first one the year when it came out, and after that, just every year when a new book came out, I read it myself, and my parents read it to me, and I fell in love immediately. I wanted to be in a magic school as well. I wanted to be a wizard too. And of course, I watched all the movies too. There maybe will be some language barriers during this voiceover because I, of course, read all the books way more even than I watched all the movies, and I brought up with these books, but all in Dutch, so with all the Dutch names, and the Dutch names are quite different than the English ones. Harry Potter is still Harry Potter, but Hogwarts is Zwijnstein and Hermione is Hermeline. Well, a lot of different names, so maybe I will make some mistakes here and there, but I think I will be fine. But when I'm watching Harry Potter movies now, I just feel warm and safe inside. And maybe you have the same thing, and then you know exactly what I'm talking about. While I was building this, it took me so much time, of course. You can see it in the length of the video. It's even longer than my previous one. The previous one I did was Times Square, but post-apocalyptic, and it was about the same length as this one, a little bit shorter, I think. But after I finished that one, I thought this will definitely be the longest video on my channel ever. Well, immediately after that, I even broke that record, but it took me a lot of time, and especially the Hogwarts part. I already started on Hogwarts, as you can see, but I wanted to explain you a little bit about the book. Of course, I will get back to Hogwarts itself in a couple of minutes. But if you didn't see the other videos in this series, I wanted to explain you a little bit about it. First of all, I made the base on the ground. In the previous videos in this series, previous builds, I used rocks to make it look a little bit natural. But this time I wanted to make just a base underneath it. I used fences for it, debug fences to be more precise. I sized them up with the bracket keys on my keyboard, of course, after enabling the bb.moveObjects cheat. And I placed these fences in the shape that I wanted the base to be. And after that, I raised the ground up in the middle and just at the height of these fences. And after that, I put a layer of stones over them, just stone tiles, and then I had that base. Then I started on the book, and it's actually not that difficult to achieve a look like this or a book like this in your own game. I use roofs to make the look of this book. Of course, I used a lot of roofs. I copied them here and there. I adjusted the height here and there, of course. I used some different of these roof trims. At the bottom roof, I used a thicker one. And on the pages of the book, if you will, these other roofs that I used as pages, I used these white thin roof trims. And then it's just playing around with the heights of the roofs, and sometimes you want to pull out the eaves of some of them a little bit more. Well, it's very easy to achieve, and it's actually kind of a fast process because you can see results very, very fast. So it's very satisfying to build something like this. And I think it really looks like a book. During my previous videos in this series, I even got some comments that people thought that I just sized up a debug item by looking at the thumbnail. So yes, it's very easy to achieve. But after that, building on the book itself, it's a little bit more difficult. In my previous book builds, I used platforms a lot. I used them here and there in this one as well. But of course here I had to fit the entirety of Hogwarts on one page. And I think I could easily use a 64 by 64 lot in its entirety for just Hogwarts itself. Even 100 by 100 lots if we have them in the game. So that was definitely the biggest challenge while doing this build. Sizing Hogwarts down and still make it look as Hogwarts, of course. And I'm building it now, the method that I used here, I'm building it now on a deck. As you can see, I built a deck just above the upper page of the right side of the book, just above that upper roof that I used as a page, of course. Or a page that I used as a roof? No, I think I was correct. But I placed a deck over it and it's on the second level, not on the ground level. Because when I had this on the ground level, you could see a foundation underneath the deck for starters. And when I had that foundation, the chunk of foundation just going through these roofs, these pages, these roofs, they disappeared. And I had to adjust the height of Hogwarts itself later on, of course, because I wanted to place rocks underneath it. I wanted to make it sunk into the page a little bit more. So I had to come up with a method that I could kind of easily build houses or shapes on, or walls on, and after that I could still adjust the height of it. So I used this second level deck over here, and after that I started with building the shape of Hogwarts itself, and after that decorating, and we're on the decorating portion right now. But like I said, just shrinking down Hogwarts, it was so much fun to do, but it was kind of difficult as well. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but do you know these diorama things? These very small environments, and there are army types and all these different types of diorama. One of my friends is making them and selling them to museums. He's making them in World War II themes. But over there you have to shrink something down as well, and I had to do that over here too. But I really wanted to focus on functionality during this build as well. My previous build in this series, that Lord of the Rings one, I didn't focus on functionality at all, just on looks. And here I wanted it to be functional. I wanted you to be able to use this build in your game, and you can really live in Hogwarts, you know, that's such a dream. So yeah, I had to shrink it down and still make it functional. I wanted to keep all the different areas in the quote-unquote real Hogwarts in the back of my mind. Of course, I couldn't fit everything here. There are a lot of things missing in Hogwarts. But I still wanted to place in some very important things. So, for example, on the left side, you can see I already done that side. You can see the Great Hall. Normally there are these floating candles here and the dining tables there. They're still there later on. You can see that when I'm doing the interior. But of course, everything is way smaller. I will put a classroom later on in. I will put these hallways in with the moving paintings and some strange staircases. And I made a very small area for Gryffindor house, but I couldn't fit in house for Slytherin, for example, the other houses. So yeah, I had to shrink everything down and focus on functionality. One of the tricks that I used to make this Hogwarts smaller is that I had a lot of pictures of Hogwarts next to me from the movies, of course. But I had some pictures of Hogwarts next to me as well from the model of Hogwarts. I went to a Hogwarts exhibition years ago in Utrecht, one of the bigger cities in my country, in the Netherlands. And they had for example, they had that flying car from the second book, where Ron and Harry are flying in, you know, the Chamber of Secrets, the flying car at the beginning. They had that car at the exhibition, yes. They had Dobby the House Elf, they had that Phoenix, they had the dress that Hermione wore in the fourth book. The Goblet of Fire, yeah, the Goblet of Fire. Well, a lot of things. I thought it was amazing. While we were entering the thing, we all had to put on the Sorting Hat. Well, it was just such an amazing day of my dreams. But I had a model of Hogwarts as well. And of course, the model is already shrunken down, sized down. So yeah, I will put a picture of the model on your screen now, so you can see it too. But yes, that was the main thing that I used while building this smaller version of Hogwarts. It was such a huge help to shrink everything down. I also had the movies playing at the background. Always when I'm building, I have my television on as well, kind of like a second screen or something. Because I'm spending so much time while I'm building, I always watch movies or series. And this build took me so long, I could watch all the Harry Potter movies and all of the Lord of the Rings movies while I was building this. But it was a fun week. I can have more weeks like that. But of course, I had the movies next to me as well, so I could see over there too how Hogwarts was looking there, and I saw some differences between the movies, so that was fun. The entrance hall, for example, is really different in the end of the movies than in the first two movies. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, that was the thing that I had next to me, that the movies itself and these pictures from that Hogwarts model, of course. I think from this entire Hogwarts build here, most important parts were definitely the roofs. Of course, I just use normal roofs for them, as you can see all around. The highest roof on the bigger tower next to the Great Hall is actually a little bit different. Because normally you cannot pull out a roof that high, there are height limits. So the thing that I did there, I placed a deck, a floating deck. I think it was like the 4th level or something, next to this build. So not attached to the build, so I could still raise it up and lower it down with the foundation tool without conflicting heights. That's a real restriction for us while building in the game. You cannot build on, you cannot attach builds or houses or rooms next to each other, attach them with each other. They're on different foundation heights. So I had to place that deck a little bit off the build here. And then I raised it up as the height that I wanted the roof to be. So higher than the upper level on Hogwarts itself here. Then I placed a roof on that higher deck. And then I removed that higher deck. And then I could pull the roof over that roof on the tower. If I didn't remove the deck underneath it, I still had that conflicting height thing over there. So I really had to remove the deck there before I pulled out that roof over the tower. And then I could raise it up, and in that way it looked just way higher. These spires on the roofs, they're very, very high. When you take a look at pictures of Hogwarts, it's very important for the look, of course. The only very, very annoying thing about that is when you want to adjust something else later on underneath that roof that you just placed in from a different height. Like removing a wall underneath it or placing in another wall underneath it. The game notes that something is wrong there and that roof is on another level than that wall, and it removes the roof again. I cut all the times that I did it out of the video, but I pulled out that roof so many times because I wanted to adjust something and I had to pull it back again. So when I'm going to do something like that again, I will do that certain thing at the very, very end. Because it was so annoying, because when I placed it back again, I thought I definitely didn't have to change anything else. But after that, I had to change something else again. So I had to repeat that process again. Well, but there are a lot of other smaller roofs as well, and of course we cannot raise up these smaller roofs that high, especially when they are so small. So I used all these roof accents and I sized them up and I lowered them down. One that I especially used a lot is that spire. You can see it there, sized up, but you can see it at the sides of the Great Hall as well. It's a roof accent that came with the Get Together pack, and yeah, it was just perfect to use here. I just placed it in over here as well, and I combined it with these other roof accents. Yeah, did you see that combination? The black one and with that spire there. Because, like I said, I think it's very important for a look of Hogwarts to have all these spire roofs everywhere. So I really had to incorporate that in. The colors that I used on the exterior of Hogwarts itself, the rocks, the stones, they're a little bit different. I wanted to come as close as I could to the color that I could see on the pictures and on the movie, of course. And because I had to size it down, I had to use a smaller stone pattern. If I had to build this in a bigger scale, I think I would use a totally different kind of stone type on the exterior. But over here, it just fitted the best. And especially that combination with that lighter color and that little bit more of a darker color. Well, we just had a very satisfying moment in the building process because I could remove that deck underneath Hogwarts itself, and then you could see Hogwarts floating above the roof, and I thought it was a very satisfying moment. After that, of course, I had to make sense out of this. I couldn't make just a floating Hogwarts over just with a straight line just over the page. Of course, it wasn't that good looking, so I went through all the different rocks that we have in the game. And I thought long and hard about this part. I tried so many different things with so many different rocks, and in the end, yeah, I came up with these ones. They're with the Get Together pack as well. And what I noticed yet again, and I noticed that before while I was decorating builds with different plants, I used a lot of items from the Get Together pack while I was doing this build. And when you use a lot of items from a certain pack and then you're thinking about landscaping, decorations, rocks, trees, plants, things like that, I noticed that it just fits the best when you use items from the same pack that you already used a lot on the exterior of your build itself, because the entire color scheme is way more cohesive. So that's why I picked this particular rock later on. Of course, here and there I had to lower some things down. You can see it here. I use these arches a lot in Hogwarts here. They're a decoration item and they came with the Get Famous pack. They're something like a movie prop. And of course I wanted to make Hogwarts look like it was really built onto this rock here. And that's why I lowered these gates down here and there, or I rotated them here and there so you could see these pillars going down into the rocks. I did the same with these smaller towers here, the sides of this gate. I used chimneys here because we cannot build a small circle like that in the game. We cannot really build circular shaped walls at all in the game. But yeah, I use chimneys over here. You can really see them here. What a timing, they're zoomed in so well. I use chimneys here and I, at a certain point, I copied these with the tool mod. And after that, I rotated them 180 degrees. So you can see them going into the rock here as well. You can see it on the right side there. So it really looks like this in the Hogwarts in its entirety is built really into these rocks or onto these rocks and not just floating above these rocks. I had to build some bridges here and there, and as you can see here, yet again I'm using items from the Get Together pack. These archers though, they came with the Discover University pack and I love them so much. I think they look so realistic. And there are debug items as well. I don't know if you saw my Steampunk Express build, the train build. I used them over there as well to make the bridge. And over here I used them for the bridge in Hogwarts and another bridge just a little bit at the back as well. I think when you want to build bridges, they're just beautiful items to use. Well, we're on to the other side already and the Whomping Willow is already placed in. Maybe you're curious, Whomping Willow in Dutch is de beukwilg. And yeah, beukwilg, bittig at the end. But yeah, I just had to place it in. I found that at first I just wanted to build Hagrid's hut. I started on that at the moment, as you can see. But I saw this dead tree, the kind of dead tree coming along. And it looks like it is moving around a little bit. So it's not really dead. It's a tree that came with the Vampires pack, and I searched some pictures from the Whomping Willow, and especially the ones that were the Lego versions. They looked so similar, so I thought, place that tree in. I will give it a little bit more branches later on with some smaller trees. I will combine them together so it looks a little bit more like the Whomping Willow. And the entire look, yeah, I just loved it together here. The rocks that I used here, the bigger one is the same one as you can see on the right, but I combined them here with these green rocks. They came with the Snowy Escape pack, and I will place in a little bit more later on, because on that side they're basically the grounds of Hogwarts. And they're not just only rocks, there are a lot of grass and plants and everything over there as well. And I will place the Forbidden Forest over there later on too. Well, as you can see, these Hagrid's huts, are almost already finished here. I really took my time with picking the roof type here. At the end, I thought this one was the most fitting for it, but the roofs on these very small huts, they're originally a little bit more dark and they have these mossy, grassy growth all over these roofs. So I used some grass here and there on the roofs to give it a little bit more of that look. And I used a lot of these, yeah, I think they're kind of dead vines. They came with the Vampires pack as well. And I used them a lot at the walls everywhere. You could just see I was placing in that bigger rock here. Yeah, that's the one I was just talking about. That's the one that came with the Snowy Escape pack. And I talked about them before, but these Snowy Escape rocks, oh my god, they're so well made. They look so realistic, and I especially love that greener layer on top of them. There are a couple of these rocks that came with the Journey Through the 2 pack as well, and they really blend well together. Well, I had the basic shape of Hagrid's hut finished already, I had the Whomping Willow finished already, and Hogwarts of course, but now I had to attach everything together. Like I said before, I wanted to focus on functionality as well, and I wanted to make it look like, you know, you have that scene. It's in the Prisoner of Azkaban movie, the 3rd movie, and it's at the execution of, oh my god, now I of course don't know, in Dutch he's called Scheurbeck, of course I don't know the English name of him. When you saw the movies, you know what I'm talking about. Execution of that gorgeous animal that is living in the garden of Hagrid. And you can see Ron and Hermione and Harry, they're running down the stairs of Hogwarts and they're running through Hagrid's hut. And I especially had that movie scene in mind when I was doing this part of the build. I wanted to make that stairs down. I wanted to place these, just place them in these rocks. They came with the Snowy Escape pack as well. I wanted to place them in there because what I saw in the movie was kind of the Stonehenge thing, like shrine over there. And I saw ground in the color of the rocks that you can see over here. Later on, of course, I will place way more trees in for the Forbidden Forest and some plants here and there. And I will place in some chimneys on the roof, so on the pages of the book, but hidden between these rocks. And I will place a lot of fireplaces in Hogwarts itself and in Hagrid's hut as well. And when you light them up, this pathway from Hogwarts to Hagrid's house and later on in the Forbidden Forest as well, it looks very foggy, and I thought it looked kind of mysterious and was so fitting for this build. Well, this was such a fun part through decorating of the house, the interior and the exterior of Hagrid's hut. All these smaller pumpkins, of course, but a lot of kind of trash and cans and things and all this clutter everywhere. Yeah, I loved it a lot. I made, you could just see him, the left corner. I made Hagrid and I made Perkamentus. Or yet again, Dumbledore. Perkamentus is the Dutch name for him. Dumbledore. I always make sims when I'm doing my builds. It doesn't take me that much time. This time I made 2, so it took me about 20 minutes or something. But I do that before I start building to kind of get in the mood. And when I'm doing, when I'm using the tool mod while building, you can see the sim. And I think it's fun for a video that sim really fits the build as well. So I started with create a sim Dumbledore. And it was so much fun. And after I did Dumbledore, I just wanted to do Hagrid as well. And I wanted to make McGonagall. She's called Anderling in Dutch. I wanted to make Mrs. McGonagall too. But yeah, so you can see Dumbledore and Hagrid popping up here and there in the left corner of your screen when I'm going to live mode. Well, here is the Forbidden Forest. Of course, I wanted to make it match according to color scheme. I didn't want to use these bright green trees. And a lot of trees in the game are actually very bright green. Especially when you can see here, I use a lot of softer colors. When I see Hogwarts in the movies, or I didn't want to make it too bright everywhere, too Disney everywhere. Especially later on in the movies, they're kind of heavy and sad, and I didn't want to make it too bright. I thought it was fun to have it like this softer color, and of course these pumpkins are very bright orange, so you can really see them popping up. But I tried so many different things with trees here, and with these bright green trees, it just totally destroyed the idea that I had in my mind to make it look a little bit more softer and dark in the same way. So I found these trees. They came with the Vampires pack as well. And yeah, especially for environment, Vampires pack was amazing. And I combined them with some dead trees here and there, and with some bushes and some grass here and there, some accents, and in that way I made that look there. Of course, you cannot really walk through the haunted forest. I couldn't make that work. But you can enter Hagrid's house. And here we go now. That exhibition I went through, that Harry Potter one, I went through like, I don't even remember, well, years ago. Times goes. Do you have that too? That now there's lockdown and we have such a long lockdown already in the Netherlands, and I can still work, luckily, just on my daytime job. But time is going so strange at the moment. Well, maybe I'm just crazy. That's possible too. But I went there years ago and there was actually a kind of setup of Hagrid's house, Hagrid's interior as well, with his clothes. So that was so cool. And I found pictures of that. So I used that as an inspiration for this interior, of course. It's very cluttered. I wanted to make it very cluttered, of course, with table and chairs and with the fireplace. There are a lot of crates everywhere and these small pots and things, and it's just a lot of clutter everywhere. And you can see the interior a little bit better from a Sims view in the cinematic outro as well. I made a dog bed there. I think he's called Fluffy, right? In English, not totally sure. For Hagrid's dog, of course. And when you see the movies, you don't really see a bed or a bathroom or something in Hagrid's house. But I still wanted to place a sink in over here and a bed in over here. Timing, as you can see here. In Hogwarts itself, of course, there will be a bathroom and there will be toilets. So I'm sorry, Hagrid, but you have to walk a little bit to go to the bathroom if you want. But yes, I just wanted to clutter this up, you know, and still make it look pretty. We're on to the Great Hall right now, and of course, this is so much smaller than the quote-unquote real Hogwarts. So I had to make some choices here and there and just leave some things out here and there, but the Great Hall was definitely very, very important. I especially really wanted to make these flowing candles, and you can see how I'm doing that right here. I'm using this massive chandelier. It came with the Vampires pack, and I sized them down with the tool mats. I placed a lot of them in. You can see it here. I placed 8 of them in. And when you size them down, the lights where the candles used to be, these flames, they're still there because they cannot be sized down. And normally it is very annoying when I want to size down things, but now it was just perfect. So I sized them down and I used the tool mats, because with the tool mats, it's a mat by Twisted Maxi. It is amazing. I used it in every single build. You can find it on twistedmaxi.com, and the amazing thing about it is that you don't have to install it if you want to use this build in your own game. You don't need it. So that's amazing. But yes, you can make items smaller. You can make items so small that they become invisible. So that's what I did here as well with these chandeliers. And then you could only see the flames, and it really created the effect that I wanted to go for. So if you want to play around with this build, you can have your dinners here. Normally, below the Great Hall are the big kitchens of Hogwarts, and of course I could not make something below the Great Hall because I had these rocks below the Great Hall and you couldn't see anything anymore. And I even think when I placed an entire room underneath that Great Hall, the entire game is glitching out with the roofs. The roofs were disappearing. So I made a decision to make the kitchen just next to the Great Hall. And yeah, I took a lot of creative liberty over here. Of course, it's still very much Hogwarts inspired, but I had to really shrink down everything. These kitchens as well, they are massive normally, and now I'm placing everything in this hallway and in this tower here. But yeah, I still wanted to I still had these pictures next to me, and I saw that in the kitchen there were a lot of these hanging pans on the wall everywhere, and a lot of clutter yet again, a lot of plates on the wall. I found these, roof decorations. No, they're not really roof decorations. These hanging items. We have a new section now, ready for a couple of months, but amongst the decorations, you have these hanging decorations as well. And I found these garlic bowls. I thought they were really, really fitting. Garlic gloves? Well, my English has been better. And here I wanted to make a kind of a storage room. I use these crates a lot. You just saw them, I went one level lower now. But I use them a lot in Hagrid's house as well. And they came with the cats and dogs pack. And they are just perfect for a build like this. Over here, here is more like the kitchen part, and I use the other part just in the tower. You could find a furnace there, and you could find a fireplace over there. But of course, it had to be functional, so I needed a refrigerator, I needed a sink, I needed a trash can. So I made this kitchen in this hallway here as well, yet again with these hanging pans on the wall, pots and pans on the wall. And this scale, I use so many items from the Realm of Magic pack over here, especially for the entire kitchen and for the refrigerator. Of course, Realm of Magic pack, perfectly fitting for a build like this. Well, now we're on to the place where kind of Gryffindor house is. In this section of Hogwarts, normally all the houses are here, and yet again, I didn't have space at all, but I still wanted to place in these important things in the castle. But there's so many things missing. But well, I did what I could over here. But this is Hogwarts house, Gryffindor's house. So I wanted to use a lot of red and yellow touches here and there. Of course, these decorations, perfect. They came with the Discover University pack. Over here, I wanted to make a kind of a smaller study room. I really wanted to give your Sims a lot of things to do while you're playing around with this build. And that you can have options. I will make a very small version of the Chambers of Dumbledore. So you can choose to play here with maybe Ron and Harry and Hagrid and Dumbledore. They can all sleep on this lot and you could do some fun gameplay with it. Of course, if you want, you can decorate some rooms differently here and there and place some more beds here and there. But of course, it's your own choice when you want to play around with it. I placed a lot of books here in the study area, and a lot of them are actually spell books. They came yet again with the Realm of Magic pack, and I used some of the familiars from that Realm of Magic pack as well. They are kind of hidden items. You have to use cheats to unlock them. And there are these debug items, of course. But I really wanted to place them in here and there because of gameplay purposes. So you can really play around with this build and you can find these familiars here and there, or these kind of secret spell books here and there. This is the courtyard, and yet again I had pictures next to me from the quote-unquote real Hogwarts courtyard. I wanted to place a fountain in, and I really wanted to place some touches of green in here and there. I saw a lot of these kind of lights everywhere in Hogwarts, these torches and these flames, so I used that standing torch. It came with the Get Famous pack. I used it a lot in this build as well. I sized them down a little bit, but the same case as with these chandeliers that I used in the Great Hall. When you size them down, the flame itself, it stays the original size. So it looked kind of cool with a sized down torch and then with a bigger flame underneath it. Now we're on to the hallways on the other side, where normally all the classrooms are and all these other things. And yeah, normally over here are the moving staircases. And of course, staircases, they take in so much space in builds. And the thing that I didn't have here was space. But I still wanted to make that kind of effect. So I placed all these artworks, all these paintings on the walls here. Some of them are really moving. They came with a spooky stuff pack that we got years ago, and I used some of these new paintings that we got with the latest pack, the paranormal pack. I didn't do any gameplay with that pack yet, so I'm not totally sure what these paintings really do, but I think with the paranormal pack they are moving as well. And I placed in some very intricate stairs here and there. We have adjustable stairs now for I think a year or something, and you can adjust them in all these kind of corners, and I wanted to make them look as difficult as I possibly could. So I placed them in the different corners. You can see one over here as well. Obviously they're not moving, but I still thought it kind of could create a look here. Over here is the classroom for potions, and yes, I know normally potions, I think they're in the dungeons if I'm correct. Well, they're not high up in Hogwarts, but I had the space here, and that Realm of Magic pack just came with some awesome cauldrons, and I thought it was so fitting that your sim can really use these cauldrons here and these potions, all these small potions, these small bottles. They are so amazing, don't you think? And when you go to live mode, they're bubbling, and some of them are coming hearts out of, like they're love potions, and I thought they were amazing. I placed these very small desks in, it's very small chairs to still make it kind of look as a classroom over here. And now we're on the last part of this entire build. In my mind, and normally in the normal Hogwarts, the Dumbledore's chambers are not here, but in my mind, Dumbledore's chambers were here, so I made a spiral staircase too. But I didn't have space here. Not any space at all. So he only has a bed and a very small chest. And some of these moving paintings, you can see it over here as well, at the wall. But this doesn't do Dumbledore any justice at all. I know, but I just didn't have any space left. And the thing that I really needed to place in here, because there's another level above this one, and my initial plan was to make these Dumbledore's chambers over 2 levels, but I had to place a bathroom in, and I wanted to place this bath in with the wings at the side. So yeah, I just didn't have any more space over here, and like I said, yet again, I wanted to focus on functionality, and without a bathroom, a build just isn't functional. So that's why I made a decision. Over here is a little courtyard as well, and then we're almost at the end of this video, because of course I made a cinematic outro at the end. Please let me know in the comments down below what you want to see next in this series. I'm definitely going to do an Alice in Wonderland one. I want to do a Peter Pan one. I want to do a Never-Ending Story one. So this series can go on and on and on, but maybe you have a different idea as well. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. You would make me very happy. I try to do a lot of different things with my builds. So but if you want to keep yourself inspired for your own builds, or maybe you just like to watch speed build videos, I think you're in the right place. We're into the cinematic outro already. Please enjoy. I hope to talk to you very soon during my next video. Have an amazing day. Goodbye.